Today, we're beginning the very first warning sign in this series on subtle, heart-related changes that people often overlook: unusual fatigue after light activity. And what makes this warning sign so interesting is that it usually doesn't arrive dramatically. It arrives quietly, slowly, almost invisibly, which is exactly why so many people dismiss it. You know that moment when you climb a flight of stairs and realize you're breathing a little harder than you expected? Most of us brush it off. We tell ourselves we've just been sitting too long, or maybe we need more coffee. But what if I told you that noticing this feeling, really noticing it, is one of the most underrated skills for understanding what your body may be trying to communicate? Let's start with what this actually feels like in real life, because I think you'll recognize yourself in this. Imagine you're doing something completely ordinary. Maybe you're walking to the shops, or doing some light gardening, or playing with your grandchildren in the park. Nothing strenuous, nothing that should leave you exhausted. But somewhere in the middle of it, you notice something shift. Your energy dips, your legs feel heavier, maybe your breathing becomes a little more noticeable than usual. And then the fatigue follows. Not the kind where you're simply sleepy, but a heavier kind of exhaustion that feels disproportionate to what you were actually doing. Now, here's where many people become confused. They think, well, I'm just getting older. This is normal. And yes, our bodies do change with age. That part is absolutely true. But the way your body should change and the way it actually changes are sometimes two very different things. And learning to recognize that difference is what this entire series is about. One possible reason behind this kind of fatigue involves the cardiovascular system, especially how efficiently oxygen-rich blood is being delivered to working muscles. Normally, when you walk, climb stairs, or exert yourself in any way, your heart responds by working a little harder and pumping a little faster. That's completely normal. Your body has been doing this your entire life. But sometimes, if that system begins struggling even slightly, fatigue can become one of the earlier signs that something isn't functioning as efficiently as it should. Think of it like this. If a delivery truck is still doing its job, but the engine has started working harder than normal, the driver notices it first. The truck still arrives, but something feels off. And in some cases, unusual fatigue after light activity can work the same way. Your body's subtle way of suggesting that something may need attention. But what makes this symptom complicated is that it can happen for many different reasons. Sometimes it's dehydration. Sometimes it's poor sleep catching up with you. Sometimes it's stress, anemia, low fitness levels, or other completely manageable conditions that may have nothing to do with the heart at all. This is why the pattern matters more than a single moment. One day where you feel more tired than usual, that's part of life. But a repeated pattern, where week after week, light activity leaves you unusually drained, that's the kind of signal worth paying attention to and discussing with a healthcare professional. And this naturally connects to another subtle change people sometimes notice alongside the fatigue. Occasionally, there may be a vague sensation in the chest. Not necessarily pain. Maybe it's a mild tightness. Maybe it's a heaviness that comes and goes. Maybe it's simply an unusual awareness of your chest that wasn't there before. These sensations can be so subtle that people convince themselves they're imagining it, and many dismiss them completely because they've been taught that heart problems always announce themselves dramatically. But some heart-related symptoms can be surprisingly quiet, even though many mild chest sensations are also caused by harmless, everyday factors. But there is one detail many people overlook, and it's actually very revealing: the relationship between the fatigue and what you were doing. Does it happen every time you do a certain activity, or does it seem random? Does it fade quickly once you rest, or does it linger for hours afterward? Does it happen more during specific times of day? These little patterns aren't just interesting. They're how your body provides information that's actually useful. Now, I want to be clear about something, because this matters. Noticing unusual fatigue does not automatically mean something is wrong with your heart. It really doesn't. This video isn't meant to diagnose anything. The purpose here is simply to help you recognize patterns that may be worth paying attention to. What matters is that you're not automatically dismissing the signal simply because it's subtle. Because the body rarely makes loud announcements in the beginning. More often, It leaves small clues over time. The goal here isn't to make you anxious about every tired afternoon. The goal is to help you become more literate in your own body's language. Because when you understand the warning signs, when you know what to notice and when to take those observations seriously, you become far more aware of your health long before problems become obvious. And that awareness, that quiet attention, is where real empowerment begins. In the next warning sign in this series, we're going to explore another subtle way the heart and body sometimes communicate changes that people dismiss every single day without a second thought. And once you notice it, you'll start seeing it everywhere. Until then, pay attention. Not with fear, but with curiosity. Your body gives small signals long before it gives loud ones. The question is whether we're listening.